Hello guys, welcome back to Cameron's Universal Information. Today, we have my dad, Cornell, and we have my stepmother, Andrea. And today, my dad's just gonna list off some points we're gonna talk about.
We're going to talk about, first of all, we're going to give respect because it's Remembrance Day to all the fallen soldiers in the world, especially those who fought for the freedom and the liberty of Africans all over the world. We're going to talk about financial mentorship and the importance of early financial mentorship.
Also, I think we're going to talk about the mythology of wealth and what we've been taught versus what the reality is. And I think finally you want to talk about looking at retirement way down the road.
Yes.
For those of you who do not know what a financial mentor is, a financial mentor is a trusted, guided, or counselor that helps a person in the area of business and professional and finance investments.
And that would be?
My dad.
Yeah.
And one of the things I can say from being in business my whole life is that you use all kinds of financial mentors as time goes on. Anytime I was faced with a dilemma, I would always talk to people who I know in business, who were in business longer than what I was, and could give me some type of advice. Not that I was always going to follow the advice, but I would always take it into consideration.
And one of the things I'll say, Cameron, is that one of the things I was lacking in my life growing up until much later on was a financial mentor. So I did not have anybody to tell me about business or about where I should put my money or what I should do with it in preparation for the future. So you need to consider yourself to be very, very lucky to have your dad.
No, my situation was the exact opposite. Both of my parents always talked to me from a young age about what you should do with your money. My grandmother, Nanny Freda, always said to my mother, always be able to put your hands on $1, which meant always have some type of savings and backup. And my father was always telling me from a young age, Cornell, you don't need a big fancy car. Save your money and buy a house. You can buy any type of car you want later on, but buy a house first.
And I'll say one last thing, Cameron. For me, I had a job from the time I was 11 years old. And had I had a financial mentor, I probably could have retired 10 years ago. So I'm a little bit late to the game, but luckily your father and I together have built our own financial sort of, I guess, our nest egg and empire. And we don't have to worry because I benefited from your grandfather's advice to your dad.
Yeah, it's the one thing. Yeah, I benefit from that information all the time. But I'm adding on to that information every day constantly, like Pat B. David, EYL, and Dr. Boyce Walker. I'm always researching stuff like that. And it's something you got to constantly be learning because the information changes. It may be one thing today, and then tomorrow may be something different. So you always got to be on top of what's the newest stuff because when someone else is suffering, that's when your time is to get up and go and get them, turn someone else's bad day into your good day. That's what you gotta do because when Warren Buffett said, when people are greedy, you should be scared, but when they're not greedy, you should be greedy.
Yeah. The perfect time to be an opportunist, I guess, is when somebody else is suffering financially.
Correct. But one thing that I will say, the financial preparation should start very early. You should think about it even before you get your first job. You want to prepare for years later on. You want to have some type of investment outside of your job and your pension, which could be stock market investments, which could be REITs, which could be index funds, which could be real estate. You always should have separate holdings just in case of an emergency. You want to buy a house as young as possible to pay it off early and have it mature as from a young age as possible.
Yeah, and I'll say that a good financial mentor, they model and they lead by example and allowing their actions and financial accomplishments to speak for themselves because otherwise it's just words and words don't equate to dollar bills.
Yeah, you get actions. You gotta act on everything you see online. Not everything you see online may be true, but you gotta act on some of it because you gotta see what is the most relevant information. And sometimes you just going on the internet researching how reliable is the information. It may not just work because I know there's some things you want to look it up, and you don't know how reliable that source is, but sometimes you just have to have trust in that source and say this source is a reliable source of information. But that's just like anything online, because like everybody knows Snopes. If you know that they fact checking information thing, how do you know how reliable they are? So who says they're reliable? They obviously have a good reputation, but who says they're really reliable though? Like, who says their information is good? Has anybody ever fact checked them?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure probably people have, but not essentially.
Well, because it's Snopes, they believe that Snopes is going to be telling them the truth. But you stumble on a really, really important point. And again, as I'll speak to your father as a good financial mentor, he challenges the process and he opposes to take everything at face value. He always has 2, 3, 4, 8, 10, 12 different sources of information before he downloads that information to you. And that's something that we've tried to teach you along the way, because oftentimes you'd say, oh, I saw it on the internet. And we're like, okay, so that must mean it's true. But you're 100% correct. We cannot take anything at face value. And if you do, a fool and his money will soon be parted.
I also agree. Anything that I believe in this world, I have checked many times, and whenever I come to a conclusion or an opinion, it's based on information from multiple sources. When I will read different books, take information from different accounts, and when it comes to business, everybody has a different philosophy. When you listen to people like Warren Buffett talk, when you listen to Robert Kiyosaki talk, they all have different philosophies. Robert Kiyosaki believes in using debt to get rich. Warren Buffett believes that he doesn't invest in anything that he doesn't understand thoroughly. So there's little bits and pieces of information that you can take from all of these guru investor type people. And even for me, like I was listening to a podcast the other day, and when they were debating what was more lucrative, multi-unit apartment or individual houses, and that's up to your style, and it comes down to, would you rather have a 5-unit building or 5 houses? I believe in 5 separate houses, because if you ever need cash flow, you can always sell one house. If you have a 5-unit building, you could remortgage the building to get money, but I think it's much simpler to sell a house or remortgage one individual house, and the 5 houses will be worth more than a 5-unit building.
And I think you also speak to something that's very important. There are multiple roads to wealth. There's just not one path. And it's certainly, and that speaks to the second point we want to talk about, the mythology of wealth, that there's this road to riches that starts in a school or in a university, and you work really, really hard. And at the end of it all, you can retire and enjoy your retirement and live out your last days doing exactly what you want. But we can look around and we know that that is not the only, in many cases, that is not the path to wealth whatsoever. I guess that leads us into the second point about the mythology of wealth. And I think, what do you have to say about that, Cameron? What do you believe the path to wealth is right now?
The path, I would say, is not to go follow stock market, because stock market, there's a lot of myths about the stock market that the average day person believes, but which is not true. A lot of people think you can make 200 to 300 a day. It's possible, but obviously it's not something you should want to do, because it's possible. I shouldn't say you shouldn't want to do it, but the stock market, the way it is that you can't make 200 to 300 a day off of just stocks, because the stock market doesn't change like that. You want something that's going to take time, right?
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
One thing I would like to say that is very important in building finances is diversification.
Yeah.
You never want to put all your eggs in one basket. You should have a multitude of investments, which could be the stock market, real estate, or any other type of asset that produces income.
Yes, so diversification, multiple pathways to wealth. I have another question, Karen. Yeah. As a 14-year-old, when do you believe that you should begin to learn about finances and financial literacy?
As early as possible. I just listened to a guy. He said he's teaching his daughter at 5 years old. That's how she learned the ABCs: A, What is an asset? Cash flow. B, a bank is a financial financial institution. C, what is credit? Financing something you cannot afford.
I love that. That's excellent.
What age did I start teaching you at?
I don't know.
You can't remember.
No.
So it was obviously very young.
Yes. So here's the thing, and you mentioned this to us earlier about the path to wealth not being an easy road, that you have to instill a work ethic as well. So there's no real easy path to wealth or to financial mentorship. What have you started to do so far to make sure that you're going to have a empire of wealth when you get older?
Just collecting information every day. So when my job, when it comes around December time, and I turn 15, I can get this job, and what I want to start trying to do is seeing what's the best way to double my money. I want to get the most out of my money, because if I get 1,000, I want that 1,000 to be 2,000. So I want that 1,000 to go there and make some other money friends and bring that back to my bank account and have 2,000.
And what's that called? What type of income?
Passive income.
What did you also learn today? We have a load of gravel in the driveway, and it's multiple things you learn from physical work. One thing is good exercise, being able to spread the gravel out and figuring out where it goes and what to do with it. The other thing that you also learn how to do something hands-on. That way, if Cameron has a house that he has for rental property, or he buys a house and he is going to fix it up and sell it, he knows how to, this house is a nice looking house, but the landscaping needs improvement. I can save money because B, my dad taught me how to do these types of things at a young age, so I could spread the gravel out in the driveway. I could fix up the lawn because I mowed lawns and whippersnipped my whole life. So you learn something from everything what you do, and there's multiple ways of looking at these trivial, little things like spreading gravel out in the driveway.
Yeah, everything is related.
Everything.
Yes, that's a skill everybody needs to learn. It takes a village. One thing I saw. I don't remember who said it, but it said Dr. Boyce Walker said it takes a bar to raise a man. I forget. I don't know what he meant by bar, but he said a bar. I'm not quite sure. Do you know?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think that one of the things with raising children is you're better off to put your time in and raise them effectively to the best of your ability while they're young, rather than have to bail them out of prison when they're older.
Absolutely. Or out of debt. Yes.
That's one thing. A lot of people don't know the difference between good debt and bad debt. Everybody that thinks they're financially educated or thinks they're doing something is either saving. I'm not saying everybody, but most people are saving or getting rid of all the debt, because debt's not good, but not all debt is bad.
Debt is good when?
Debt is good when you're not paying taxes. It's helping you not pay taxes.
When you're using the money to make more money. Yeah. When is debt bad?
That's bad when you have too much of it.
No, when you're using the money for liabilities, not assets. If you're borrowing money to buy a $100,000 car, that's a bad investment.
And your dad's number one piece of advice, I would say, is never buy anything that
goes down in value.
That goes down in value.
That's the one thing. I was listening to a guy saying about the Michael Jordan card. There's only 300 of them ever printed, and it was saying about how it went from 46,000 in over a month or two to 753,000, and he was just saying this is not going to be affected by inflation. Inflation affects anything that can be duplicated and reprinted. Right? That's money. You can reprint all the money in the world. You can keep printing.
So what does high inflation indicate? What is it?
Is a high inflation indicates that I believe there are high interest rates. Now, I stopped paying attention to this information because I didn't think we were going to talk about it. But I have a sheet right here.
Okay, so let's just say, for example, that high inflation indicates that we're going to have interruption in the economy. Yeah. So let's just say we go into a recession. What do you do in a recession?
What do you do in a recession?
Yeah.
Hold on to everything. Because hold on to your land, don't try to spend. I wouldn't say don't try to spend. Okay, buy things that are low. You want to buy things at low and
Absolutely.
sell them at high in the
Yes.
stock market. That's what you want to do. And land is probably going to be low, and
Real estate in general.
it's going to be low.
Yeah,
Could be-
you
could-
said it. He said it earlier that one man's misery. So you think about one person's loss is your gain. If you are financially sound and secure and smart and have a high financial IQ, when things start to go sideways for the rest of the world, like a recession or a depression, who's in the best position?
Dude,
The person who has
money.
Exactly, and that's why the rich get.
Richer.
Yes.
So you want to have access to money. So in the situation that we go into a recession and houses that normally sell for 400,000 are on sale for 280,000, that's a good time to buy.
Because I know that when there's low interest rates, oh man,
We know low interest rates will fuel the economy and keep the economy going because people can borrow cheap money. They'll buy houses and all other types of commodities that we need in society to fuel the economy. And then when the interest rate goes up, it will slow the economy down, and that's when things become available at cheaper prices.
you see when Obama came to the office the first time, interest rates were interest rates were high from the presidents before him. And then they went below zero. It was like 0.7. I don't know. I was looking at a stat sheet last night, and it was just saying how low they were. And it was saying when Donald Trump came in, it went up. And it was also saying about how they will lower the They will lower the interest rates to boost the economy a little bit, but they don't want to keep them low for too long because it will mess the economy up. And just like
It
during
will create
COVID,
what? Inflation.
Yes,
And
and when
if-
they lower the interest rate, it creates an opportunity for people to buy things. So more people are purchasing and buying things when the interest rate is low because the borrowing rate is lower. But then what happens when the interest rate spikes? Those people are left in a lurch.
Yeah.
And basically, a simple way to put inflation is that when stuff goes up, the average day, the employee needs to go to his boss and say, I need a raise. And the boss is like, to pay this person's wages, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to push the prices of my stuff up. And it starts to keep cycling. It's a cycle. It keeps going and going and going and going and going. And that doesn't stop because the prices of things needed to survive every day going to go up. So that person's going to need a higher wage, and then that business is going to have to sell stuff for more and more money. So it's going to keep having to go up and up and up, and it's not going to stop because that's just how it works.
Exactly.
Until the market crashes.
And then our money's worth nothing. You need a whole wheelbarrow. If you want to look at, was it in Russia? At one point in time, the dollar was devalued to a point where if you wanted to buy a loaf of bread, you needed a whole barrel full of money, like literally, like not metaphorically. You had to go to the store with a wheelbarrow full of currency to buy a loaf of bread. So it's very, very important that the markets be stable and that they don't go too far to one side or to the other.
Yes, and that's the one thing. A lot of people they don't pay attention to it.
Here's one thing I'll say, Cameron. Most people your age have no understanding what inflation even means. So right there, the importance of financial literacy is showing itself because the average person, and I would say it'd be safe to say that the average person, unless they're in the world of business, has no understanding of how inflation impacts them on a personal level.
Well, I think it's a class conversation also because you have the middle class generally thinks a certain way, and the upper classes generally think a different way when it comes to money, and that's why they're able to get richer. And the middle class is more of they consume. They want the big house, they want the fancy cars. The wealthier people realize that we're going to make the money off them. We're going to sell them these houses and cars, and we're going to get rich.
Exactly. Which is why anybody can get a car loan at whatever. You don't even have to have a job to get a car loan because they have all kinds of protections. But I have a question.
Yeah.
I want to see how financially literate you actually are at 14. So you know that your stepbrother bought a home.
Yeah.
And they're having a major issue with that home right now. And they bought this home a year ago now.
Yeah.
And the repair that they have to make is probably around, or they've been told, is about $10,000.
Yeah.
Two things right now. Your stepbrother has $10,000 sitting in the bank. It's been sitting in the bank for 2 years.
Yeah.
So he can easily afford this repair. So I want you to think about that $10,000 sitting in that bank. The person who he's in partnership with is freaking out wants to sell because, oh my goodness, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
And I'm saying, okay, this is not amateur hour. Figure out the logistics. Think about what's going on. So why shouldn't they sell this house? Remember, you got to think about the market here, right? And they bought the house 1 year ago.
So they shouldn't sell because houses are immune to inflation. They're going to go up. The house is going to be up. The house is worth more, not the house is worth more, not the dollar. The dollar is worth basically nothing. So they should keep the house because they're investing into their future. The person that's freaking out doesn't understand that the house is their future. Is what they're gonna, if they want to retire, they both can sell at the same time or buy the other person's shares. Right, so it's a good opinion, a good place to keep the house because you don't want to sell because then you're gonna lose money. You could lose millions of dollars because in Halifax, Nova Scotia, what's going on right now? What do you think? Everything is going up. The prices of houses are going up.
Do you think the house he bought 1 year ago is worth the same money today?
No, I'd say at least 40,000 more.
So,
I wouldn't think more. I would think maybe the same or a little bit less. But the thing about what you have to understand is anybody going in business, it's not smooth. Business is up and down. So if you think that you're going to go into real estate or any type of business and you're going to sit behind a desk and the money is just going to fall in the window, it doesn't work like that. There's lots of days where you will struggle, and the people who make it are the people who figure out how to get over these hurdles. You never say you can't, you always figure out how you can.
but you said more, maybe not more, even a little bit less. Why do you think that?
Well, I don't think the market is hot as what it was when they bought. I think they bought almost at the peak, and I think now, because I've been looking at the prices of some of the houses, and I might not be right, but some of them I see them that they're down a little bit, and it seems like they're sitting on the market a little bit longer when it comes to selling.
Okay. I think he got in right at the right time because it has appreciated in value. But what you said is exactly right. It's a long game. But what about that $10,000 you got sitting in the bank?
Well, that money's only going to go down. The